Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Hello, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. I'm Macy Renee, and I am so excited to have you here for another episode. I think that you're really going to like today's episode, but before we get into that, I just want to quickly say, if you're not on my email list, go to macyrenee.com. The link for that is in the show notes. At the very top on the home page, you'll see a pop-up where you can enter in your information. And when you see emails come through, I think all you have to do is basically confirm that you're okay with receiving the emails. The reason being is because I will be doing a free webinar for you guys really soon. It's going to be free coaching content. I'm often asked, when is your next free program going to be, or when are you going to have something coming down the pipeline? And it will be coming soon. I'm in the planning stages right now. So if you don't want to miss that, just make sure that you go to macyrenee.com, pop in your information, and then that way you will receive all of the emails as they start coming down the pipeline with all of the details, okay? All right, so today's topic, I want to talk about grounded goal setting versus unsettled goal setting. The reason that I want to talk about this is because I see a lot of people making goals or chasing after their dreams, for instance, from an unsettled place. And we're going to talk about what that means versus a very grounded, like smooth, joyful place, okay? And the reason I know this topic very, very well is because I used to be a goal setter, setting all of my goals, chasing all of my visions and my dreams from a very unsettled, unhealthy kind of place. And it's a very sneaky thing that our brain does, and it will motivate us to some extent for a while, but then what we usually will experience is fatigue and burnout. So I want to talk about the differences between the two to add awareness to your brain if you're doing one versus the other, and if you don't want to be goal setting or chasing your dreams from that unsettled kind of feeling in your body, because you're not going to get the same results as you would, whenever you're coming from a very conscious, grounded place. So let's first talk about how this used to show up for me. I have always been very much driven by my dreams and visions, and I've talked about that a lot on the podcast. Like, I've never been short of being able to use my imagination. Let's just say that. I love dreaming. I have huge dreams for my life. But a lot of that for most of my life came from a very unsettled, I'm not happy with the now kind of place. Okay, so it was like, I will be happy once I achieve all of the things that I want to achieve. And basically the way that I felt when I wasn't achieving things fast enough, or I wasn't getting exactly what I wanted, or my life didn't look like the life in my imagination, I would be extremely discontent and very frustrated. And I would feel like I was floating outside of my body. So I do a lot of consults with people, and a lot of times on the consults that I have with you guys, there is this feeling of I'm floating outside of my body. And I remember working with a coach, and she would say, Macy, I totally get you. You're a Libra, and Libras often have their head in the clouds, and they love to dream, and they love extravagant things. And She said, but the thing about it is you also have trauma that you've carried on, like you've carried in that trauma with you. And so the way that you visualize and dream is often to escape your current reality. And it's a sneaky way that your brain, operates so that you don't have to feel the negative emotions. So the reason you're not feeling grounded and the reason you do feel like you're floating outside of yourself and watching, this version of yourself, like you've got the version of you that's like operating in everyday real life that kind of feels sucky. And then you've got like the floaty version of yourself that's kind of like a balloon that's looking down at your real life self saying, I don't want to go down there. It feels too scary. And I notice this with a lot of people that I do consults with. They'll say like, I just don't feel super connected to myself. I feel very all over the place. And I get that 1000% because that is where I used to be. So with that being said, when I set goals, it was usually to escape my reality and from this very driven by negative emotion kind of place. So I've shared with you guys that I used to, years ago, I joined a network marketing company when I was in my early 20s. I don't do it anymore, but back in my early 20s, it truly was my saving grace. I know that network marketing is not for every single person. I know that there's a lot of crappy things that are said about the industry, but at 20, I think I was 22 years old, it was the thing I needed at that time. It really found me. And I thank God for it every single day, because had I not done that, if I didn't ever go that route, I wouldn't have likely been introduced to the world of personal development, which, I've been engaged in very heavily for 8 years. But then I also wouldn't have met my coach, because my coach at the time was only seeking out network marketers. Okay. So it's a full circle kind of serendipity moment, the way that all of it happened. But the big thing was that at 22, my drive for success was coming from unhealed wounds and anger. So I almost named this podcast Building from Anger versus Building from like joy or contentment, because that's really the only way that I know kind of how to describe it for myself. It was like, I need to prove something in order to feel good about my life. I need other people to validate the fact that, I'm good at this or whatever it was. So I really built from this unsettled place in my body, and it created a bunch of train wreck kind of results. So that's why I want to talk to you guys about it. So again, this podcast episode is grounded goal setting versus unsettled goal setting. So let's talk about what unsettled goal setting looks like. Unsettled goal setting will often look like trying to prove your worth. Okay, when you're setting your goals, you're wanting to prove something, and you have this sneaky piece in your brain that's like, I have to achieve this thing for people to think I'm this or that, for people to think that I'm good, for people to, see value in me. I have to be able to achieve this thing to be worthy of something else, right? So this is a sneaky thing that our brain does whenever we're unsettled in our body, okay? We will also find the need to prove things to other people. So I remember when I was in my network marketing business, and one of the goals, like the major goals in that company, was like earning the Lexus car bonus. So you could earn like a Lexus car SUV. And my eyes were set on that basically from day one, because I knew that had great potential to change the trajectory of like my life, but my sister's lives as well, because of the circumstances we were dealing with behind closed doors. And I remember like, it also keep in mind, like this was during the height of some of the worst years of my life behind closed doors. So on the outside and on social media, my life looked very glamorous and put together, and I looked very positive and driven. And I was, to an extent, trying to radiate positivity based on the stuff that I was learning through personal development. However, the truth and the reality was that I was very unsettled in my body because I was ignoring a lot of negative emotions in a survival kind of mechanism. And I was putting all of the energy that I had into building this business from a very angry place in my life, like just angry at the world, angry that my life wasn't what I wanted it to be, angry that, it wasn't easier. Like I had a lot of entitlement around wanting my life to look a certain way and be a certain way. And behind closed doors, it was like lit on fire. And so it's kind of like there were people in my life that were like, hey, do you need help? And I'm like, nope, I've got it under control. And, meanwhile, I'm like trying to put out this massive fire with a dollar store water gun. And truly trying to convince people like, no, I'm good. I've got it. And so with that, I felt this heavy pressure, not from anybody else, but like pressure I put on myself to prove to others that I could do amazing things. And even though there was like a deep piece of my soul that truly believed that I could no matter what, it's like I needed to prove it. And also I felt very like, what's the word I'm looking for? Defensive, I guess, because there were people in my life that would say she'll never be able to do that. So when I was setting my goals, I would hear their voice of like, she'll never be able to do that. And then that brought on this anger, like energy where it was like, oh, I'm going to show you. I'm absolutely going to do that. And I think that a lot of people do this where we get into like, I'm going to prove you wrong kind of energy. And I'm going to talk about like, it serves you in the moment because it lights a fuel on your fire, it puts fuel on your fire. And so you really explode sometimes when you're using that, I'm going to prove it to you because you don't believe, but it's actually coming from a very unsettled place in your body where it's like, you're more focused on proving other people wrong than you are focused on why you're doing it in the first place. So there might be reasons why you are setting that goal, but the factors that are driving you to do what you're doing are external. So what that means is when those external factors go away, if you don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore, then you experience what is like burnout, or I don't know the reason that I'm doing this. I don't feel any sort of fire to keep going because I've proven myself and it was all for them. And now it's like they know that I can do it and they really don't care. But I also don't care because I'm burnt out. I'm so tired from working so hard to prove this thing that now I just don't even know where to go from here. Okay, so that's that unsettled goal setting. And that's how it showed up for me, but it may be showing up a little bit differently in your own life. So take this podcast and apply it in any way in which it makes sense to you with your own examples. Another example of unsettled goal setting is like wanting to set that goal or achieve that goal or go after that vision or dream because you're going to feel more confident when it happens. So it's kind of like, I need this thing to work out so I feel more confident. So like in the coaching industry, that might be like, I need to sign 10 clients to feel confident that I'm a good coach, right? Or I need XYZ to feel confident that I'm good at this thing, like whatever it is. And I need my boss's approval to feel like I'm really good at this task that they asked me to, fulfill. So I just want you to watch where you're feeling like your confidence comes from something external. It's not coming from this internal thing. It's coming from something outside of yourself. Also, another way that this shows up is thinking you're going to feel better when you reach the destination. So like, I'm going to feel happy whenever I get there. I'm going to feel, content whenever this thing happens. And the way that this looks, and I see this a lot with clients, and this used to be me as well, whenever I get more money or whenever I make more money or whenever I have more time. So that's an external circumstance. And a lot of times our brain is really good at being tricky, thinking that when we get that thing, we're going to feel so much better. And I will tell you that there is some truth in that you do feel better, but it doesn't remove all of the problems or negative emotions you think it will. So a lot of times we hold money and time to such a high standard that we think when we get quote unquote there, to the money, to the time, all of the things, that suddenly all of our problems are going to magically disappear. And that is not the case. Okay. So you get more time, you get more money, but guess what? You're still left with anything internal that you're not actually working through. So it's very important to recognize that and know that when you're goal setting or when you're creating a vision for your life or you're chasing after your dreams, that you're not letting your brain tell you, I'm going to feel better once I get there, and I can't feel better right now. Like, I need that thing to happen to feel better, because you will not be satisfied. Like, it's going to feel very unsettling going after it, and you're going to feel like your happiness is based on that thing, achieving that thing. And if you don't get it in the timeline your brain thinks that you should, then you're going to feel that burnout, that dissatisfaction, that defeat, that confusion, all like tons of negative emotions on top of what you're already feeling. So it's really important to get clear on where your brain is focusing on, quote unquote, there being better than right here. And that was my next point. The whole mentality of, when I get there, I'm going to feel so much better than when I'm right here. And again, this is not to say that, whenever you're visualizing something, that you can't want for the thing you're going after. That's really a part of highest self-work, right? You're tapping into the version of you that already has the things that you want, and you start making decisions from that place. But where I see people go wrong with that is they are complaining about the now, and they don't find anything good about the now, and they don't have gratitude for anything in the now. And what's so crazy is that all of those skills, all of those ways of thinking, like I'm grateful for where I am right now. I'm good with where I'm at right now because I have X, Y, and Z on my side. When we forget to add all of that in, we actually take away our power for achieving the thing that we want over there. We delay the process, okay? So it takes 10 times longer to get there because you're sulking about what you don't have right now, thinking that over there is better. But as soon as you change that mentality and you're good with where you are now, and you start to recognize like you have everything you actually need right now, you're safe with yourself now, you can find happiness right now, all of that, when you start thinking that way, you actually get to where you want to be over there much, much faster, okay? Another aspect of unsettled goal setting is really feeling burnout. Like, you will feel tired because you're focused so heavily on the external things. You're focused on proving to other people you can do it. You're focused on proving other people wrong, proving yourself wrong, trying to find your worth wrapped up in the goal, not believing you're worthy without achieving the goal. I see this a lot now that I'm coaching, like helping coach some of my coaches' clients. They're all going for huge monetary goals, and they have such thinking like, I'm not worthy if I'm not reaching X amount of money. Like, in order to actually feel worthy, or that I'm doing a good job, or, that I am really good at what I do, I need the dollars to be there in order to feel that emotion. And that's just not true. And so as a result, they get really burnt out. So if you're trying to set any goal, like you're wanting to change your physique, or you're wanting to feel more healthy, or you're wanting to have better relationships or more money or whatever it is that you're wanting to have, but you're also feeling burnt out in the process of trying to get there, and you're feeling discouraged and just tired and blah about the whole thing, and you're asking yourself like, what the hell is the point of life? Or like, why am I even doing this? I want you to really get clear on if you're giving your power away through external circumstances having to change, rather than actually having to sit and do the inner work that it takes to get to that external place you're trying to go. Okay, because a lot of times we think it's the external circumstances that matter and that are going to get us closer to our goal, but it's really the inner work you're doing that's going to get you closer to your goal. Another aspect of unsettled goal setting is that nothing is ever enough. You will really feel like it's not enough. It's not enough until I get this thing. It's not enough until I reach point B. Like I'm at point A, I want to be at point B. This is just not enough. I'm not happy. I won't be happy till I get to point B. Nothing is ever going to be better until I get to point B. Like you really want to check yourself there. And I used to do this too. I used to feel like, until I get XYZ, I'm just not going to feel as much joy. And what I was doing was robbing myself of joy because I wasn't willing to let my brain find it in the now. I was only willing to believe that I would experience it when something external happened and when I arrived there. So that kind of goes with some of the other stuff we talked about. And then again, seeking external happiness and external validation. Like if I change this, I'll feel happy. Or if I get to this place, I'll feel happy or I'll feel validated. So just check yourself before you wreck yourself of if you're doing this in your life, because this is unsettled goal setting. You're really not grounded in your body. You're like really looking outside of yourself for the solution. You're believing that somewhere else is better than where you are right now. But when you do that, you give your power away because the power is you. Do you get that? Like your power is you. So when you give that away to other people, to other things, to other circumstances, to things that you don't have right now, what you're doing is you're actually stepping on a hamster wheel of until my life changes, I'm not going to be any better. I'm not going to feel any better. I'm not going to believe I'm worthy. I'm not going to have the things I want. I'm not going to reach my goals. Like this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. I need all of these things to change. But you're saying all of that while you're running on a hamster wheel. And you're wondering why years after years pass or months after months pass and you're not getting what you want. And you're not getting what you want because you're setting your goals from an unsettled place. Okay, so I really want you to be clear on if you're doing this. And this is why a lot of people quit their goals. Like when they don't reach where they thought they were going to, especially on their own timeline, because everybody has like a timeline they want to reach it by, like a deadline in their mind before they start believing like I've failed. Okay, so sometimes people will be like, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to see how good I do. And if I don't do good in 1 year, then I'm going to quit. And if you ask them like, why 1 year? Like, what's the timeline for a year? Well, 1 year is a long time to work at something and it not work. And so they think like all of these external things have to happen. Like I have to get this many clients or this much money. Otherwise, I've failed. And rather than sit with the discomfort and work to figure it out and commit to the long-term goal of really putting in that work and changing as a person from the inside out, instead they just blame time. They blame external things. They blame not enough customers, not good enough marketing, not enough this, not enough that, whatever it may be. Okay? And when we do that, we really give our power away. So the power is you. And in whatever goals you're setting and whatever vision you have or dreams you have on your heart, what you really need to remember is that in order to achieve those things, the power is in you. So where are you giving it away? Okay, so now let's talk about what grounded goal setting actually looks and feels like. So grounded goal setting is going to feel like it's for you. Your goals are for you. They're not for anybody else. You don't need to prove your worth to anybody else. You don't need to prove someone else wrong. You don't even need to prove yourself wrong. You need to set goals and know that your goals are for you. So like I've been open about some of my dreams and visions, and some of that, is materialistic. Some of it's not. Like some of my biggest dreams and visions is to be able to take care of people that I love, to be able to give back to charities and do mission work. But some of my goals are also like my husband and I would love to have like almost like a timeshare. I don't know if this exists, but for like a private jet, because we both hate commercial flying. My husband came from college athletics. That's what he did for 10 years. And because of that, they like him and the team and the staff all flew private, and not like fancy private jets, right? That you see celebrities in, but like where you go to a private airport and you don't have to go through TSA and you just walk right on the plane, and they, basically like they feed you breakfast before you're on the plane, and it's not just peanuts, and you get to your destination and you land at another private airport. And so there's not lines and luggage, like there's not all of this hustle and bustle. So my husband has been spoiled with that for a very long time. I, on the other hand, had to fly commercial like all of the time, and I fly commercial every time I go back home to Kentucky, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is a task. And because I have flown private with my husband on the trips I was able to go, and I've also flown private in the fancy jet with my coach for her bachelorette, I have the contrast of both. And so my husband and I talk about how like life could be so much easier, to be able to even just share a jet with other people who maybe have the same goal. So that way we don't have to always fly commercial. It would just be nice, right? And so some people might roll their eyes and be like, seriously? But that's fine. I don't need anybody to approve of my goals. Same thing with one of my big, goals is to build my own home from the ground up. My husband may not even agree with the size or the designs or any of that stuff. And that's okay, because whenever I'm going for my goals and my visions, they're for me. I don't need anybody's approval. I don't need someone to validate whether or not I'm going to have it, going to achieve it, going to be allowed to have it. I don't need that permission from anyone. I get very grounded in the goals that are for me, whether it is a goal to contribute to, back to my community, to do charity, to help someone in need that, is maybe struggling. Like, I don't need to explain that to anybody else. And I don't need to, I don't have to be there right now in order to feel worthy. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, my goals are for me. And even though I don't have those things, all of the things I'm going for right now, I don't believe I'm less worthy. Like, I don't believe I'm less worthy for having to get on a Spirit Hot Mess Express airplane, which has been a hot mess express for me more times than I can count. And I've been stuck in an airport for 14 hours and it's been a cluster, right? But I don't feel less worthy because there have been times where I need to do that versus be able to fly private. Like, it's okay. I don't need that goal to be happy or content or feel worthy or feel validated. I don't need it to think that I'm the best. I don't need any of that. So I'm not looking for those results to make me feel better right now. And this is something that has to be learned, right? Because if you would have asked me even 8 years ago, a lot of my goals that I set, it was like my brain believed if I don't get them in this timeline or if I don't meet it, I'm not going to feel worthy. I'm not going to feel good enough. I'm not going to be able to prove people wrong. So I just want you to be super aware, of where you're maybe doing this in your life, mostly where your brain is doing this, because our brain is just sneaky. It's super sneaky, okay? So another example of grounded goal setting is knowing that you're setting your goals and your visions from your highest self, from where you want to be. Again, you don't need that external validation. You don't believe that over there is better than right here, right now. Okay, so that would be like, in my instance, being a millionaire will be better than being right here. And being so consumed with it that I can't function, that I'm depressed every day, that I am moping around, that I'm not getting all of my stuff done. Or the opposite, that I am doing it almost from like an intense, like vengeful, angry place, right? Like building on steroids because it's like, I gotta be there now. I'm not gonna be happy until I'm a millionaire coach. And, millionaire coaches are the happiest coaches. Like, that's where people's brain goes sometimes. And I think I even years ago had like this idea that when I made a lot of money, like it was going to solve a lot of things. And I'm not saying that having more money is not a great thing or that it won't solve some, problems that maybe are more problematic for people with less money. But the thing about it is I don't need to chase that for my happiness, for my contentment. And what's so funny is that the more grounded I've become in just letting it take time, not rushing, like truly just like my brain is so focused on my clients and what they need and how I can best serve. And the money is so secondary in my mind. Like for me, it's like I'm really good knowing that we have a roof over our head and food in our bellies and we're good. And so it's okay if it takes time to get where I'm trying to go with the home from the ground up and, a timeshare jet service or whatever, or being able to take care of people the way that I want. Like it's not a pressurized thing where I'm super unsettled in my body, putting all of this unnecessary pressure to be somewhere else other than where I am right now. I feel very good about where I am right now. And I know that, it's coming. And so I come from this very settled place now with my goals because I've been doing this work so intensely that over there is not better than here. And I was even telling some clients this because we moved from Kentucky to Las Vegas, and a lot of people ask me like, how did you do that? Because although I didn't stomp my feet so much with moving, it wasn't my idea. And I probably never would have left Kentucky. It's like it was my husband's dream to like get out of Kentucky and explore other places. And he has said that since we started dating, at 17, 18 years old. So I knew that it was coming eventually, but I didn't know when. And there like around the time that we decided we were going to move, I think it was like 2 weeks later, my sister found out she was pregnant with her first kid. And it was devastating for me because the way that I pictured my life was like, I'm going to be super involved. I'm going to have this child almost every single weekend. Like she's going to basically be attached to my hip. I'm going to see her so much, just like I did my husband's niece. We're going to be like BFFs for life. I'm going to be the rich auntie. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where my brain goes. And so when we decided that we were moving, it was really challenging for me because I'm very much a family girl. I go back home a lot, hence all of my commercial flights. I think I've flown home. We're getting ready to hit our 1 year anniversary of living in Las Vegas. And I seriously think I've flown home like 11 times. Not really. I think it's been more like 8 times, but still that's a lot. Like I go home almost every 6 to 12 weeks, I would say, depending on like if someone's having a birthday. Like I'm just so sentimental that if my best friend is like, it's my daughter's 2nd birthday, I'm like, oh my God, I got to go home. My sister is planning my niece's 1st birthday now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go home for the birthday. And one of my best friends just got a book deal and was just on Joel Osteen's sister's podcast and like all of the things. And she was celebrating her book launching. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to go home for that. And then my coach had her first baby. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go home and go meet her baby. Like I'm super sentimental. And so all of that to say, I kind of got down a rabbit hole with that. But over there is not better than here. So like people have asked me, how were you able to move, while your husband kind of explores what things he wants to do and tries to figure it out? And it's because I feel so content in me. Like I know that happiness is not a place you go. Happiness doesn't come from more money or more time. Temporary pleasure comes from that, sure. Contentment to some extent can come from that, sure. But it's not what actually creates safety in your body and long-term fulfillment, I should say. It can certainly do that in the short term. And I'm not going to deny that having made more money this year than I ever have, even as 6 years with a master's degree as an occupational therapist. I'm not going to say that the money hasn't been amazing. But what I'm saying is that you can't utilize it as the thing that's going to make you the most happy. Because if you think about it, people like Robin Williams had tons of money, tons of success. Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, okay? Time, money, all of that does not make you happy if you're not doing the inner work. If you're not doing the work that I'm teaching you guys on this podcast, okay, if my coaching clients aren't implementing the work that we're coaching on at a deeper level than even the podcast, right, then it's going to feel like they need all of these external things to feel happy. And what I know that I have is inner contentment. You could take it all away. I'm still going to know how to live. I'm still going to know I'm going to be okay, because as long as my brain is okay, everything else is going to figure itself out. Okay. So that's really like my mission in life, is get you to a place where you are so content and so happy with where you are right now that there's nothing wrong with wherever you're trying to go, but that you feel so solid in where you are right now that if all of it disappeared, you would be okay. Okay. So let's talk about more grounded goal setting. I talked about contentment and there's really no real rush. So let's talk about this. You will push yourself to meet goals, but not pressure yourself. There's a difference between pushing yourself and feeling a little uncomfortable going after what you want versus pressure. Pressure is like, I have to do this. If you feel like I have to do this, I really want you to ask yourself why. Why do you absolutely have to? A lot of times it's going to be because you've set expectations for yourself, or you've allowed someone else to have expectations of you. And it will feel like pressure. It will feel like heaviness. It will feel like people counting on you, and that if you don't do it, or you don't do it in a set amount of time, you're failing. Just want you to be aware of if that's showing up for you. Okay. So there's a difference between I'm going to push myself, feel a little uncomfortable, versus I have to do this. I have to, or everything's going to hit the fan if I don't. Okay. There's a big difference. We talked about gratitude in the now, being finding reasons to be grateful for where you are right now, even if it's not exactly where you want to be, because finding gratitude in the now is what helps you gain that power to push forward for the life that you want. So I might not be in the home of my lifelong dreams right now, but I can find gratitude of being in a space that feels really good for me, okay, where I feel safe, there's a roof over my head, I'm able to provide for the needs that we have, and I feel really good about that. And even like you all who have been with me for the last at least several weeks or months know that the last apartment that we lived in here in Vegas, where my neighbor was reluctantly, constantly puking on the sidewalks on pathways where I had to step over his vomit. Like even then, there was the ability to push myself versus pressure. So like it wasn't like pressure to I have to get out of here. And I need to hurry up and sign a bunch of clients and create a bunch of programs. Like there wasn't external, like I wasn't placing external responsibility on other people to get me where I wanted to be. I was pushing myself to show myself like when I'm not in a place that feels really good, I can create safety in my body for what is temporary and use that and my contentment and my brain to create where I'm trying to go. And I really believe that the ability to settle down in my body and create safety from the inside out is what created all of the opportunities that came together in order to get us in the home that we're in now. Versus if I had been, I have to get out of here, I can't do this anymore, which trust me, there were those words. I said those phrases. I was like, I remember telling my husband, like, I would rather sleep in a box than stay here. I'm not doing it. I will fly back home to Kentucky and I will bunk on someone's floor. I will not live with this neighbor vomiting in front of our window and door every single day. And it wasn't every single day, but it was enough, like every few weeks, to where I was done. I'm just done. So with that being said, you just have to get to a place where you're pushing yourself and you feel a little uncomfortable, but there's not this pressure of like, I have to do it or else. Okay. It's more so like, what do I need to do and who's the person that I need to become to reach this goal? So more so in that situation of the last apartment, I had to think of who is the woman I want to be to get the house that I want to get and be able to afford it consistently every month and us not be out on our ass as two entrepreneurs, right? Like there's a different way I have to show up than the way I am right now, because the way that I'm showing up right now, it has me in this situation. I've created this situation So there's a level of responsibility that you take when you're in grounded goal setting, like self-responsibility, radical responsibility, versus unsettled goal setting where everything is like determined by something else. It's all outside of you. Like you're a victim in it all. If you're unsettled versus I'm solely responsible, what do I need to do and how do I need to show up when you're grounded? Okay. So with that being said, you will make decisions from your highest self and you don't need more to feel better. You don't need those external things. So that kind of wraps this up as far as goal setting from a grounded place versus goal setting from a very unsettled place. So I hope that this brings you clarity as you go forward with any goals that you have in your life, whether that is a better marriage, more communication, a better relationship with your kids, goals that you have for your health, your body, money goals, time goals, friendship goals, relationship goals, friendship goals, like whatever it is, the way that you want to show up in your job or the job that you want to have or whatever things that you want in your life, you can absolutely get there, but you have to check your brain and see if you're doing it from an unsettled place or a grounded place. It's going to make all the difference. And if you're not really sure what you're doing, if you feel very lost, if you feel very frustrated, if you're feeling burnt out going for your vision and your goals versus excited and lit up and content where you are right now, then reach out to me. Let's schedule a consult so that I can help you with this, okay? Because I know how frustrating this is. This is where I was years ago. It just felt like I was never going to get to the destination I wanted to get to. It felt like it was so far away. I was often asking the questions of like, what's the purpose of life? Why am I even here? And not from so much a suicidal way, but like a place of like, I really am confused why God placed all us little blimps of people and I don't get like what I'm supposed to do. I don't understand my purpose. I don't know why I should go for my goals. I don't know why I should even have dreams. I don't know. And it was like such a torturous experience. I don't know if that's the right word I'm meaning, but it was really uncomfortable because I feel like whenever you feel like your life has no direction or purpose, you just are kind of on autopilot, living day to day to day, confused and frustrated and feeling like quote unquote somewhere out there is better than here. And it's a very icky feeling. So if you're feeling that and you're wanting to change your life, but you're not wanting to like do it from a place of ignoring the internal work that can be so easy to do. Because a lot of times when people are not happy with something, they immediately jump to a decision that's going to bring instant gratification. And then as soon as they get that instant gratification to feel better, they feel good for a few weeks or a few months or maybe even a few years. And then they realize like, I'm back on the hamster wheel. I jump from thing to thing to thing. And they don't understand why their life isn't changing in the way that they want it to. And it's because they're not focused on that inner work that it takes to find that true fulfillment, inner happiness and contentment. They're kind of finding that temporary solution to feel better for now, or really putting a lot of pressure on themselves to feel better, and they're burning themselves out versus like knowing that where you are right now is okay and you're going to be fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't set big, audacious, fun goals for your life. That it doesn't mean that you can't create the life and version of yourself that you desire as well. All of that is available to you. All of that is possible, but you have to be willing to do the inner work. And sometimes the inner work feels like shit. So trust me, I speak from experience, and all of my clients could tell you. I think I'm going to ask my clients to get on a podcast episode so you could hear like their experiences, because it's one thing to hear mine, for 100 and something episodes, but like, what is it like for people who are not me, that are working with me as their coach? Like, what are they thinking? I think I should ask them on the podcast. So anyways, I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you think someone needs to hear this, share it with them. Leave me a review on Google. I will put that link in the show notes. I appreciate your Google reviews more than you can ever imagine. And if you have any questions, let's schedule a consult. Go to MacyRenee.com. And also, last but not least, make sure you sign up on my email list so that you don't miss my upcoming webinar and all of the details that will soon be coming your way. Have a wonderful week. I will talk to you soon. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at MacyRenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at MacyRenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.